Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Young Lawyer Podcast. For all of those newbies listening in, this podcast aims to bring the legal community together by highlighting the available support for young lawyers, discussing different journeys people take, and other important factors that could affect your legal journey. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Young Lawyer Podcast.
Alrighty, well, welcome to the Young Lawyer Podcast. It's great to have you on. If you can start by introducing yourself and how you began your legal journey.
My name is Dean Clifford-Jones. My legal journey started many years ago, back in 2008 when I finished my undergraduate degrees, and then took the leap of faith and started working as a judge's associate in 2009. So over a decade ago now.
And I guess, what got you into law originally? Did you touch on it in high school? Or did you just fall into a job, or how did that come about?
Look, I think I've always had an interest in law and social justice reforms and really understanding the fabric of society, I think. And I think my love of law really started in high school. I never got to do an elective per se, but I got to go and speak and listen to a speech from the former President Bill Clinton in the 90s. And he talked about the law in the United States and the impact that had on his life, and a lot of the reforms he was doing at that time in the United States really pushed me to understand how far Australia still has to go in terms of equality and justice for all. So I think that was probably one milestone. But to say one thing changed or was that light bulb moment, I don't think I ever had that.
And so did you start your undergraduate degree straight out of high school, or was there a gap? Or
Yeah. So when I finished high school in 2002, it was quite a different environment, I think, than we see in 2021. And I took a gap year. I was able to get a scholarship to go and study over in the United States, and I lived in Kentucky in the South, and from there I returned to go to Griffith University in 2004 and finish in 2008 with a Bachelor of Laws with honours and a Bachelor of Arts specialising in politics and government. I always thought I love politics as well, and I think the two intertwine quite well.
yeah, that's definitely an interesting journey. And how did you find studying over in Kentucky? Because my parents worked over in Louisiana for 2 years, so I definitely know what the South is like.
Oh, look, it's another world. And I think if you travel to the United States, you don't really get to see or appreciate the different cultures that there are. And I say culture deliberately because it is very different in the south of the United States compared to, for example, the New England part or California, the eastern side. And I think you get your pockets of cultural differences, just like you do here in Australia. I don't think you would compare people that live perhaps in the Northern Territory to those who live in the inner city of Melbourne as having the same type of appreciation and understanding from perspectives, as well as food and experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I just found that they're very interesting and very sensitive about the whole North and South divide. There was a few comments made to us, like you'd wear a New York hat down the South and you'd get yelled at for no reason. So I found that very, very interesting while we were over there.
Yeah. It's I was able to return back in 2000 and when I was 16, I think it was, yeah. And I took my husband with me, and we went back to where I was studying, and just how far even parts of Kentucky had came from where they were in 2003. Yeah, it's just remarkable, and it's the same here in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. And going on after you've done your undergraduate degree and obviously whatever else was required to become a lawyer, how did you find the transition from going from student to now being a lawyer?
Yeah, look, it's really, I must admit, before graduating from university, I'd never even been in a courtroom. I was the first in my family to graduate from a university. Or my family and so forth only ever went to high school if they finished that. And so to become a judge's associate straight out of university was quite a leap, not only in faith but experience. And I was quite fortunate to have a kind person look after me in that experience and teach me the ropes, so to speak. And I really enjoyed it. I stayed on for an additional 6 months, past my expiry of usually 12 months as an associate, and then started my career at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in Queensland, starting as a lonely AO2 and over time becoming a Crown Prosecutor for the DPP.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I guess what weight would you place on having like a good mentor? Because obviously that's, as you said, really helps you learn the ropes and navigate your way through everything.
Yeah, look, I think mentors are an invaluable resource, but I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to pick someone, to say, hey, you're my mentor, or and it should develop naturally. That's what I try and tell people anyway. It's more of a friendship that you build rather than a mentor per se, I think, and that's been my experience. I think I've surrounded myself with good, honest people who come from different backgrounds and that I can learn off as much as they can learn from me.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And a lot of people obviously try to, as you said, pigeonhole it as to just one mentor. But if you leave it open, you never know what, sort of information you get back and forth from other colleagues. Even if you're not around them all the time, they can always provide certain advice that might go, oh, that's actually really useful.
Yeah, look, it's and as you go through your career and you learn what type of law you want to practice in and get the skills you need to be in that type of geography as well, you'll have different experiences. I've been able to work in Brisbane, but also in Townsville. I spent a couple of years in or thereabouts in Rockhampton. I spent some time at Ipswich, a couple of years at Maroochydore. Look, you'll develop your friendships and your mentors where you go, as long as you're, I think, open to those possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess through your journey, as obviously you've been through a number of different towns, what kind of setbacks have you faced through your legal career, I guess, and I guess how have you overcome them or how have you dealt with them?
Yeah, look, I think the law as a path, you develop quite a lot of resilience. That's what I think I've found, and particularly in criminal law, you'll find that often there are no winners, there are no losers either, and nobody ever really comes out of a matter entirely content with the outcome. And I think that, some of the challenges along the way have been around engaging with the different types of people and different characteristics and different personalities because it can be a rough trot to be in the game. And my advice, I suppose, to people would be to never play office politics. Don't ever get involved. Don't think you have to be part of the party. And it's okay if you don't want to go to those Friday afternoon drinks. It's all right to do your own thing outside of law. I think some of the best experiences I've had over the last decade have been with non-lawyers, and that's okay, because I think we put a lot of pressure on particularly young lawyers to be going to those Friday afternoon, evening drinks, to be buddying up to the partners or to the more experienced people when you're still finding your own feet, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And in particular, you know, with young lawyers, like you got to go to these networking events because, you know, you need to get your name out there. It does make it difficult coming into it.
Yeah, look, and I love the networking events, but I honestly don't look at them as networking. And I know you use that term deliberately, and you would, I think, see it this way as well, as these networking events are an opportunity for you to further discover your own skills and to widen your legal friendship base outside of your own office and chambers or wherever you might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there is some that are pretty much there to, I guess, outsell each other, which are the ones I really don't like attending. But then you get the ones that are just, they're there for a chat, they're there for a beer, and that's it. There's no ulterior motive to it. And I guess, what is it about criminal law that, I guess, has made you so interested in it? And obviously, you know, now being on the parole board, wanted you to stay there.
Yeah, look, I think criminal law is from my experience, probably the most interesting. There's no day that is the same. So I spent about 6 years with the DPP in Queensland, and then I went over to the new Office of the Director of Child Protection Litigation. And they're the people who make an application for a child protection order in the courts and then litigate those proceedings. And then after a few years there, I was selected and then appointed by the Governor and Council to be on the Parole Board for my term of 3 years. So yeah, I started that term last year, and I really enjoy it. It's a unique experience, and before this interview, we're having a quick chat about how each prisoner, each circumstance is quite unique, and you don't come across people you usually would in your everyday life, and the different experiences that they want to share and we need to listen to.
Yeah, and for the listeners home, I guess, what does being on the parole board entail on your perspective?
Yeah, look, daily I will read applications for parole order, and then as a board we will sit to decide what is in the best interests, as well as always keeping in the fore of our mind that community safety is our number one priority. Sorry.
Yeah, that's just, as I said earlier, I found that interesting because obviously working for a defense lawyer, you're like, you know, the basis of it, that, you know, they've got to apply for parole, but you have no idea really what it entails or what your job really is as a parole board member.
Yeah, look, there's a number of factors that come into a decision to grant or to not grant a parole order, and those will include a prisoner's custodial behaviour, any programs, counselling that they've undertaken while in custody, whether they have a suitable place to go live when they're back in the community. These are all the factors that you will weigh up along with expert evidence, as well as the sentencing remarks from the judicial officer at time of sentence.
Yeah, as I said, that sounds very different to what I would expect. I thought it was just they hand up an application and there's a few people from the prison. They go, nah, maybe not.
No, it's a lot more complex than that.
On another topic, you recently received a reward, as I'm aware. Do you want to go into some details on that one?
Last year in 2020, the Law Council of Australia awarded me to be the Australian Young Lawyer of the Year, which was quite an honour. And I thank the Law Council of Australia for this prestigious award. I suppose I don't really think of myself as a young lawyer, but I do see myself as trying to make a difference for the legal profession, and along with my colleagues, really trying to increase diversity and visibility and education for the rainbow community. That's the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, gender diverse, bisexual people out there, particularly who are practicing in law. There's a whole array of different experiences from our intersex community to our gender diverse, and I feel that it's important for everyone, including allies, to always say something and do something to help each other out, because as you know, Damon, it's practicing in law can be a hard task day after day, going to court or coming back to the office and reading till midnight. You want to make sure that you feel supported when you're doing those tasks, and you don't want to feel like you need to hide who you are and spend that energy in doing that. And that's what I've been trying to achieve in the law, particularly in Queensland.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. And it doesn't matter whether it's, the LGBTQ community.
Yeah,
I think I did that right.
I know it's the acronyms that get people. I tend to try to say rainbow community or pride, but LGBTIQ plus, and the Q can stand for a number of queer or questioning people. So look, it's don't get stuck up on the acronym, and as long as you say it with respect and try and understand, I think that's all people really are asking for.
Yeah, exactly. And absolutely, everyone deserves the right to feel safe at work, and it doesn't matter where they come from, what their background is, what they enjoy. They want to feel safe. They want to make sure that they're, doing a job and, they're actually respected for what they're doing and nothing else.
Yeah, look, I think there's been quite a few studies, even in Australia, that detail how much energy is taken up by a person if they're trying to hide their sexuality. And a team exercise I always try to do with my colleagues at work is try talking about your weekend when and mention your partner without detailing the sex or gender of your partner, and describe that person without doing that. And that's the type of energy that people who are not out in the workplace have to sometimes go through on a daily basis.
Yeah, and just on that similar topic, it would have been, tough trying to, I guess, deal with that in the early stages, coming up in law or even doing your uni and whatnot.
Yeah, look, I didn't come out, so to speak, until I was at university. I come from a religious background. I obviously spent time in the Bible Belt in the United States, and I was still, I guess, trying to figure out who and what type of person I am. And although I knew I was different, and people say, "Oh, how do you know if you're a lesbian or gay or trans?" And I knew I was different from the age of 4, and I suppose I didn't really understand what that was until I really got to university and discovered who I was. When I was 4, that was the 1980s. The AIDS epidemic was rife, and the hatred towards particularly gay men was on the tip of most people's conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, obviously, I'm only from the 90s, baby, so you only hear stories of how bad it was back then. So couldn't imagine actually having to deal with it personally. It would have been extremely tough. I guess, like, as you progress, how have you, I guess, dealt with that? Obviously, doing the Pride in Law, is it a company or how's that run?
Yeah, Pride in Law is a unincorporated association for charitable purposes. It was set up in 2017 and is a national organisation. We are governed by our rules and regulations just as any other charitable organisation is, and we are registered as a charity, but we don't have that charitable status because we don't provide a service. What we do provide is visibility in the community. We provide education through our networking events, and then we also provide our I suppose, support and networking opportunities for the legal profession to, as we've already mentioned, to mingle, to get to know one another, whether it is as an ally or whether it is if you identify as part of the rainbow community. So, yeah, look, Pride in Law has chapters currently in Queensland, and we also have a chapter in Western Australia, but we have a board of national directors and a committee in each state at this point in time.
And I guess just for those listeners at home, how do they find the page or get in touch in that regard if they want to, attend a networking event or catch up? Or...
Yeah, look, well, Pride in Law is www.prideinlaw.org, so ORG. You can find our events on all of your social media platforms, being Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. We're prolific in posting daily and providing positive reinforcement. I think you could capture it by we try to provide a message of difference and not concentrate on the negativity that sometimes can be spread in the usual media realms.
Yeah, and well, thanks for that. And as we, I guess, come towards the end of this interview, just got a few more, I guess, a bit more rapid fire questions. If you weren't a lawyer, what do you reckon you'd be?
Look, I think if I could, is this the same question as what you would be if you could? And I think I love animals. I'm a huge dog person, and I think if I could be anything, it would be an animal caretaker. Just look after the injured.
Yeah, dog walker on the weekend.
Yeah, and
Easy.
I don't think I've ever met an animal, whether it's in the ocean or in the outback, that I haven't loved. And God, we're so lucky in Australia to have some of the best mammals and creatures, furry and not, at our doorstep.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started your legal journey?
I wish that I wasn't so afraid of tomorrow. And what I mean by that, Damon, is I was so eager to get my feet wet, jump straight in. And I think it's important to take your time, not expect everything to happen overnight, and to enjoy the moments, to stop and enjoy that first court experience, that first win under your belt. I remember I took a younger lawyer to their first hearing, and before they even went into the hearing, I took a photo for them. As I said, you're gonna want to just have this photo, with you. And she was smiling and nervous, and I stopped her to take a breath and to understand this is her first court experience, and to have a photo of that. And yeah, so I wish I did more of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with life and everything else, we seem to just want to rush by. And I'm thankful that's, I'd say one of my mentors, one of the person that helped me through university, he was a lawyer, and he pretty much said the same thing. He's like, you're stressed now doing a uni degree, but you may as well enjoy it because it's more than likely going to be the only degree you actually do.
Yeah, look, it's I always thought about going back to university, and I did. I went to go and I did a bit more education, but yeah, it's hard to find the time, to be honest, to take your break and go back and do a master's or less or any PhD. It's just I wish I could take a couple of years off to do that.
Alrighty, well, one final question. What is a summary of the advice you'd give to someone wanting to start a legal career or a young lawyer?
Look, my advice would be to prepare yourself mentally, to prepare yourself physically, to build your resilience, because you're going to fail. Everyone fails, whether it is at an exam, or whether it is in a court case. You're not always going to be on the receiving side of positivity. So prepare yourself for that, and it's okay. And you will grow, and you will learn from those experiences, and you'll become a better lawyer because of those experiences.
Yeah, and that's such great advice. And thanks again for taking time out of your day to jump on. If people want to get in contact or have a chat, how can they do that?
Oh yeah, look, I'm on LinkedIn. Again, my name's Dean Clifford-Jones. Never hesitate. I always reply to emails, and if you want to reach out by email rather than through LinkedIn, my email address is dean.cliffordjones@icloud.com.
All right. Well, thanks so much again for chatting. You've provided wonderful advice for everyone out there, and hopefully spread a bit more awareness as well.
No, thanks for the opportunity, Damon.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to the Young Lawyer Podcast. If you found this content useful or enjoyable, make sure you share it with your family, friends, or colleagues. Let's grow the Young Lawyer community. If I can ask you a huge favour, can you please leave a review or a comment on iTunes and subscribe to the YouTube channel, so that way we can grow the community even further. Until next time, guys.